Welcome back to Global War 1939. We just finished off round 10. So let's take a look. Now, before we get into any breakdown, let's just go over the economics of the game. Right now, the combined income of the Axis, including bonuses, mind you, the Axis are sitting at $262. The Allies, all combined allied nations, including China, is a combined income, including bonuses, of 222. The Axis have an advantage of $40 per turn, which is making the game very rough for the Allies at this point. City count wise, the Axis are currently sitting at 12 victory cities. So the rules are there are 3 win conditions. You have, after 10 rounds, hold 12 victory cities for the Axis, and they win. Or you can go to 15 rounds and hold 12 cities, or you can have no round limit, play as long as you want, but you need to hold 14. So we'll probably end up going with the third option, so meaning the Axis still need to claim 2 more cities, and logically there's 3 on the table that the Axis can easily achieve relatively, I wouldn't say quickly, but they're within reach. So the 3 that are within reach is Cairo. May not look like it because the British do have 2 sizable armies in Africa. Calcutta in India, and then Hawaii Islands, which is just garrison with 2 Marines and 3 artillery. So those are the 3 victory cities that are the best achievable for the Axis to win. Of course, the Allies would need to capture one of the Axis capital cities, Berlin, Tokyo, stuff like that. So we'll see. That is the economics and the victory city condition of the game so far. So for the Germans, they didn't really do a lot this turn. There was a couple of objectives that they wanted to take. One being the Allies did land in Normandy the last turn, so the Germans pushed them out, consolidating most of their army in the army that they have in France in that region. So that card is this one right here. So they have a slew of different levels of armor. They got 3 heavy artillery, 1 SS infantry, 2 of these Sturmjäger vehicles, 3 Tiger tanks, 4 Mark 5s, 3 medium tanks, and 9 Mark 4s. And then card 10, which is in Reims, which is the stack here, is holding most of their infantry. Every time the Axis do have to repel the Allies, obviously they're taking their hits on their infantry, so their infantry corps is taking a lot of damage, but their armor is pretty much intact of what they started when the Allies started landing. In fact, they've increased it. They did have their trains over in this region, which brought a bunch of units from Romania, Hungary into France as well. So that's in southern France, because if this territory falls, then these French vessels will switch sides again, putting moderate pressure on the Italian fleet. So they want to avoid that. So they stacked up some armor and some infantry to help defend that region. So that is pretty good. The other objective, they wanted to remove the Allies from Iraq and Syria, basically collecting pretty much all of the Middle East now, just Transjordan left, and they also get that bonus that the British have been taking advantage of the last couple turns. So now the Axis can take that, and there is, like, the British do have a fair amount, but they do need to keep a lot of it into Cairo, because they certainly can't lose that. If they lose Cairo, Africa is over. And then for the Italians, after taking the combined British and American troops um, from this region, they turn around back and going to face off against the British soon. They did pile a bunch of more units into Africa to protect their production facility. They certainly don't want to lose it, recapture their territory, and rebuild it. That would be an awful waste of money from them, especially their economy is pretty low. Right now, they're making 35 after bonuses. They did repurchase their transport fleet that the British have sunk quite a few turns ago. They were up to 4, 3 got destroyed, so they've rebuilt them as well. In fact, they now have 5. They have 2 here in the main fleet and 3 at home. So basically, they'll be able to transport all but 2 infantry units from their home country and get down to Africa as well. And they'll be able to use these transports to come grab these 3 guys to help out in this fight. So the British might attack or they might back off. We'll see how things play out there. But certainly, there is a big armored threat from the Germans coming down from Russia and Turkey. So they will team up in Transjordan and possibly even attack Cairo. I don't expect this to win against Cairo because they got like 8 fighters, a slew of infantry, heavy artillery, 2 different levels of tanks. I don't expect them to win, even though they have quite a few armor units and support vessels. They would certainly weaken them quite a bit, probably enough for the Italians to come in and take a shot, but we'll see. The Germans also have other concerns that they have to worry about. Russia is finally built back up to a point where they can start moving out, and the Germans have pretty much ignored them for the last couple turns. As you can tell, any leftover units that they didn't need for to stop partisans from showing up, they've either taken it back to France or down the Middle East. So they do need to worry about this. They do need to get some more units to help defend Russia. Certainly this force can certainly remove most of these infantry. And you don't want their Russian capital falling back into Russian hands. Down here, the Japanese did move 1 step closer to Calcutta, having a smaller battle, not as big as the Burma, but certainly enough to raise eyebrows, as they're only 1 step now away from their FEC capital. So certainly a lot of tensions, and we'll see how this works out. The Japanese have been able to move quite handily, minimizing their casualties quite well. A lot has to do with their Air Force. Pretty much every round, the Air Force are, getting 4 to 6 hits, which is certainly a big detriment to the British here. They were able to recapture the Philippines. The Japanese came down with an Amato battleship. No, sorry, a regular battleship, a loaded carrier, and 3 transports. And the Australians did make their attempt to remove that. The Australians only losing 2 destroyers and getting rid of a carrier and a battleship. So certainly not good for the Japanese, as they wanted these units to quickly move over to Hawaii. So they have to rebuild their transports, rebuild infantry to take that. But certainly now they have 6 units in the Philippines. Yes, they are stranded, but there is no threat from losing that city from Australia, as they only have 2 transports. So if they want to make another attempt at the Philippines for that, the Victory City, certainly got to put more money into transports. They pretty much got the landing party to do so. They just need more ships. This is what's currently left from their Navy in Sea Zone 86. So we got 3 cruisers, a sub, and 4 destroyers. They have 3 more destroyers, three destroyers, and 2 transports. Up here, they did capture this the Midway Islands. So now they own these production facilities, not production, but seaport and the air base. So now they can repair those battleships, and then get them. More likely, what they'll do, they'll probably move 2 battleships over to this fleet here, which is pretty much blockading the Americans from building another navy, and then take the remainder of the battleships to fight the Australians after they build up some more. Their last purchase was infantry, a couple of cavalry, and Armado and 3 destroyers. They will need some more cruisers, some more destroyers, possibly another carrier or 2, to certainly wipe out the Australians, and because they've become a very big thorn in the Japanese side, reducing their income quite a bit. Right now, Japan's only making $83. Now, you compare that to Germany, which is making 143. So the Japanese are falling behind, and a large part has to do with these islands. There is a lot of money down here. The Japanese have been taking them back, but every time they take an island, they'll lose a transport. So then they can't immediately jump onto the next island. They have to rebuild, sail back down, which is becoming a big nuisance. All at the same time, in trying to hold back China. China did advance another territory in here. Now, there's only 1 infantry defending, so it wasn't that big of a deal. They did re-maneuver their armor that the Americans lend-lease them, but they are running low on funds as well. A couple turns ago, they were making 5 to 6 infantry a turn. Now they're down to only making 3. So the inroads that the Japanese have made have certainly hurt their economy, especially losing the Burma Road. Massively decreases the amount of weaponry that they can get on the map. And Japan did come up and take some more territory off the Russians, all walk-ons. The infantry that the Russians had here have been slowly making its way to its new capital, abandoning these territories, thinking that they needed not just defenses, but they needed units here to try to make a run for Moscow. All right. And then for the British and the Americans in the Atlantic, things have been... Because the Americans over here are being convoyed for $15, which is massively reducing their ability to wage war, certainly reducing the amount of money that they can make. Because they lost Philippines and Guam, their income after bonuses should be 107, and certainly losing 15 of 107 is a big blow. They did come and purchase tactical and a fighter, so they're going to fly out and try to sink the ship. Even though they can't get any sea vessels in the Pacific, they can make shots with their Air Force. That might be their strategy moving forward to get rid of this Navy, which is going to be very difficult, especially if they add on some more Armados. They own this island, which they can quickly repair their vessels. But we will see. Hopefully the Americans can, in order to make this work, they'll have to produce 10 fighters, attack, lose the fighters, lose whatever that they can sink, repurchase 10. They might have to do that a couple times. The problem with that strategy, I have no doubt it'll work over time. You throw at 30 fighters over 3 turns, they could probably sink this and then get a Navy back in water. However, what would that do for the Atlantic war effort, as they're trying to produce 20 units here a turn? So if they get, 10 medium tanks for $60, another 10 infantry for another 30, that's 90. They're not going to have any money for the fighters that they want, especially dropping 10 fighters, it would be $100. They're not going to have anything to produce over here, which only favors the Germans. Certainly, for the Allies to invade Europe properly, they need the combined effort, the combined income of all 3, Canada, Britain, and the U.S., to really make that work. The British and the Americans landed already twice and been quickly removed from the continent. the very next turn. And the Germans still have a slew of forces surviving those battles. So it's becoming an economic war as much as it is strategy and where your units are on the map and are they in or out of position for the next battle. But certainly the Axis producing or making $40 per turn more than the Allies is really causing a lot of problems for them. The next coming up turn, I think the Germans have no choice but to take Moscow, bring that back up to a major factory, even possibly put in a minor factory in Stalingrad, and then start producing units here, because the Russians, they do want their capital back. And looking at the field right now, they only got 1 infantry per territory. So the Russians are feeling confident that they can get in there. And now Japan is at war with Russia. The Communist Chinese do get a bonus as well. So they're going to start be able to producing more units, even though they only are technically collecting $1 a turn. They can still make that up with bonuses. Is still drop 1 infantry per turn instead of 1 every 3 turns. And the Italian Navy would love to go after the British Navy down here. This is combined of British, India, and Turkish Navy, but they are the Italians are not able to get to them because they are being protected by the canal there. The Italians can't get through unless they take out Calcutta. And the Spanish did take Gibraltar again, so giving the bonus back to the Italians, allowing free throw into the Atlantic. So that might have to happen again. If the Italians and the Spanish fleet and then the Germans did purchase some more subs, they do need to get rid of that Russian blockade in Sea Zone 17. If they get all 3 navies into the Atlantic, it would cause a lot of problems, certainly stop any flow of units into the continent itself. So we'll see how all that plays out. Down in Brazil, the Americans did land units, so did the British, to fight off the Argentinians that were just sweeping through. The Americans are poised to bring in 4 more units, 2 more medium tanks, 2 more infantry. Canada can certainly get some more units there. There is a infantry. They do have a transport on. This is Portuguese infantry, so they can certainly flood Brazil with units. And the Argentinians only have 4 infantry, so they wouldn't stand a chance. They probably wouldn't even need the Canadians or the Portuguese help out. Certainly just these 4 Americans and the 6 units that they already have in Brazil should be more than enough to take out this allied Axis country. All right. So do we press on with this into Calcutta, soften them up for the Italians, or do we turn around and go after the Russian capital? Questions. All right. Well, again, thank you for watching, and you have yourself a great day.